A searing new Washington Post investigation is raising frightening questions about the safety of the president and his family. The Post investigation reveals the president and First Lady were furious about the agency's mishandling of a 2011 White House shooting that took the Secret Service 4 days to realize that bullets had in fact hit the residence upstairs where they live. This comes as the agency is still under increased scrutiny for that recent fence jumping incident where the man carrying a knife made it all the way to the front door, the unlocked front door of America's most guarded home before being stopped. Carol Leonig wrote the story for the Post and joins me now with more details. Carol, first of all, this was an incredible piece of work.
Thanks,
you
Andrea.
really
I appreciate
revealed
that.
so much that we did not know about that incident back in 2011. What to you was the most shocking part of it all?
I think it's the basic piece, which is that officers on the ground who work for the Secret Service felt that fire was coming in their direction. And one in particular felt debris and heard rather the sounds of debris coming from the Truman balcony. She was stationed on the South Portico. I mean, she was worried enough that she broke open a gun box and pulled out a shotgun. The people that were on the ground that night and sort of closest to what you would consider the epicenter, they were never interviewed about what happened, or at least not formally interviewed, before the Secret Service decided that this was just two gangbangers shooting at each other, as it happens on Constitution Avenue.
And let's break this down. There's so many pieces of this. The Secret Service agent, the woman agent whom you describe, had heard and had reported shots fired, as did another agent, yet the supervisor said stand down based on an incorrect assumption that it was two gangs fighting on Constitution Avenue. Now, first of all, the fact that she did not feel that she could challenge the supervisor says something about the culture, that she didn't feel that she could insist on what she had heard and seen.
Yes,
and that the supervisor didn't reach down and do an after-action report and try to find out what his people were saying, and that they could be dumb enough to think that there were two gangs fighting on Constitution Avenue, which anyone who knows the district knows could not be the case or would be highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. Yeah, you've totally perfectly summarized the three big stages here. First, there's this confusion that buys the shooter some time to flee. That confusion is when a sergeant, who I'm told is Sergeant Strong, gets on the radio and tells everybody, it's not gunfire, stand down, disregard, it's a construction vehicle backfiring. Well, the guys that were the closest to the shooting, they're worrying, they're taking cover behind an SUV and behind a flower pot, and they're very sure that this is gunfire, but they're trying to manage their own situation, and they get back on the radio eventually and say, no, really, shots fired, this is for real. That's the one stage. Second stage is when the Secret Service, maybe 2 hours after this all happens, concludes after seemingly a cursory investigation that it must be these two gangsters shooting at each other, that they have witnesses saying they saw shots fired towards another vehicle. It happens to be a parked yellow construction vehicle, but they decide that it must be two gangsters. No kind of interviewing of people on the ground to know whether or not that there's any evidence to contradict that. And then finally, on the third, behind the scenes, the Secret Service is interviewing people. They're interviewing friends of the shooter, Ortega, who they identify through the abandoned car. They're interviewing his relatives, his girlfriend, and they're finding out something really scary. The guy is obsessed with the president. He's called the president a devil. He's described himself as Jesus. These are all things that would set off alarm bells of, how interesting, a guy obsessed with the president appears to have had a knockoff AK-47 and have shot it somewhere on Constitution Avenue on the White House's front lawn. All three of those stages are sort of worrisome from an investigator's standpoint.
Now let me share some other takeaway that I have from your reporting. Michelle Obama has been flying back overnight from Hawaii from a presidential trip with the head of the Secret Service, Mark Sullivan. She takes a nap after the red eye. The chief of staff at the time, William Daley, decides once they discover that there were in fact shots, the housekeeper discovers bullets embedded in the wood and in the glass, that there were shots fired at the residence, and that Sasha and Mrs. Robinson, the grandma, was home at the time, and Malia was on her way home on the Friday night. They decide not to wake up the First Lady. They want to call the president en route or in Australia to have him tell the First Lady, because they are so afraid of telling the First Lady about this egregious failure of the system. So she then finds out about it accidentally from an assistant usher who thinks she knows about it and tells her. She's furious. Now that sets the stage for a lot of other issues, including the eventual departure after Cartagena's failure the year later of Mark Sullivan, the head of the agency, and questions about the role of the current head of the agency, who's going to be testifying tomorrow, who had a high-up position, questions about the departure of the chief of staff. There's just a big mix here of anger by the First Family that we've never heard acknowledged before at the Secret Service.
Well, and you can totally understand it, Andrea. I mean, she's a mom who finds out that while her kids are basically home alone, I mean, with protective details, that they've been shot at and nobody figured it out for 4 days. But also it's the way she's told that I think really irritates her the most. And on that point, in fairness to the Secret Service and to the White House staff, the protocol is that the White House staff is supposed to tell her, or the head of her protective detail, with whom she has a very close relationship, is supposed to alert her to truly serious, scary things. And so while she's napping, they're trying to figure out what to do. My understanding from talking to sources who are close to the ground, Bill Daley feels like she should be woken and told, but he defers to other recommendations that the president be the one to tell her. And there was just this lag in time. It wouldn't be protocol for Mark Sullivan on the plane ride back as they're learning more scary things about Ortega, but they haven't yet found the bullet. It wouldn't be his job at that point to scare her with an unconfirmed investigation. But once they find the bullets, I've heard people say that Sullivan probably would have walked right in to tell her. It's just that she found out before anybody did.
Carol, it's great work, and we know that the service now has cameras up and a lot of other things in place, but it raises such serious questions. This is not going away lightly. Thank you very much, Carol, for your work.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today.